So welcome
Great.
everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so today, yes, we're a week out before level 2, and I'm hoping everybody's been successfully, confidently progressing with their journaling and working on what's been going on underneath the surface. We are here for support and anything that you need. We have the Facebook page. No one's reached out. So I'm assuming that is the case. Or if there's any confusion, we will cover that in the beginning of level 2 next week. And we wanted to get on this call and go over some distinctions. I had a very powerful weekend at a seminar. Some of you may know about it, Landmark Forum. I think actually all of you that are on here know about it because I've been talking about it for the last 24 hours, and it was deeply powerful. It transformed my relationship. It really gave me a massive clarity, and I wanted to bring something from it that actually goes in line with what we were going to be going over during level 2 and is the foundation that you've been working on with your journaling. And that is getting to determine where in your life there may have been an event. It's called the what happened. And in that what happened, it's an existing event in the past. It doesn't exist now. It doesn't exist in the future. It's something that already passed. But in that moment, you gave it meaning. So in that meaning, that's where its existence still lives, not in the actual event itself. And to make it a little bit more relatable, I could give you an example of I had a conversation with my mom when I was at a certain age, and she said some pretty nasty, hurtful things. She did do that. We're not disqualifying that. But in that moment, I made those hurtful things mean something for me. So she may have called me stupid. In that moment, it felt real, but I held on to that belief. I made her words mean I am stupid and I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And I've lived into that since that very moment for the rest of my life. And that's what I really came to learn this weekend, is that what we're doing in the journaling is digging, hey, what's really going on underneath the surface? Not just like today, not just yesterday, but where did this first hurt come from? These first fears come from? And once I get there, when we do the reframe, it's basically the same thing. Is that truth that you've given that experience, that fear, that pain point, the ultimate truth for you? We can honestly say no, even though it may feel that way. And then when we do the reframe, we are acknowledging that since we gave that event meaning, we can also let it go. And then from that letting go space where we clear that and no longer sit there and wallow in it or react unconsciously, we can then create a possibility for the future, which is what we do in the new grocery list, so to speak. Megan has done this class many moons ago, so maybe she even knew intuitively that we were going to go into this before I even registered. But this has all really worked out synchronistically, and I really love it, and I'm grateful to be bringing this so fresh. But I'd love for you, Megan, to share what it was like for you and what you got from it, how it's shifted in your life over time.
Oh man. So I did it when I was 21, I think, 22, maybe around there, 22. And the concepts are still there. I mean, sometimes I forget them, then I have to bring them back up. And this concept of meaning, like what we make things mean, doesn't just happen. I mean, there are huge events in our past that we make mean things. Like, for example, your story is, I can relate to that one where I have a really big meaning around me bringing my report card home to my dad, and my dad looks at it, and I had a lot of really great grades, like A's and maybe a B or two. And he was like, how come that A isn't an A plus? And I made it mean that I wasn't good enough, like that this wasn't good enough, that me, how I show up in the world is not good enough. Of course, as a kid, like that's not how I knew it. I just made it mean like, oh shit, there's something wrong with me. So that, and then it took me a while to get over that. And I it's funny because I think I still have to go through the process of releasing it. That meaning got so strong, I could strip it away, and then sometimes it creeps back in there, and then I have to strip it away. It doesn't just happen too in the past. It could be you're out with a friend, and the friend says something to you, and you can make it mean something right there. Or actually, this just happened with Marty. Marty and I had a miscommunication in the gym. He was like, hey, we'll leave at 5:30, and I'm like, hey, how about we leave in 20 minutes? And guess what? That was the same exact time. but I didn't hear him, he didn't hear me, and we both made it mean something else. So it happens all the time, day by day by day. And I think the question that I've been asking myself that's really powerful is, what did I just make this mean? Or does this really inherently mean something? And no, it doesn't. It makes, like, we make things mean something all over the place, and other people make things that we do mean something. So we're like buried into this world of meaning, which is so rich and like beautiful, because that's how we live. That's what our words mean. Like when I say sounds, you hear meaning. You don't just hear the words, you hear the meaning. So that's how we communicate as human beings. It's amazing. And we just have to watch out when that meaning like misfires, and that if we lose power around our meaning, like we're the ones that are putting that there. So this is honestly, like, I did that almost 18 years ago, and it's still so relevant.
Yeah.
So relevant. Yeah. Every day.
Yeah, you did so beautifully, making it feel real. I felt maybe mine was a little conceptual, and that happens. I felt extremely present yesterday and had an amazing conversation with my mom. Mind you, I've not spoken to her in this fashion in our entire lives.
Wow.
Able to keep us present.
Wow.
To hear her start telling stories and just allowed it to happen without it having any meaning to me. And in that meaning, oh, she's invalidating me, or she doesn't love me, or she doesn't want to listen to me, or, oh my God, why is she doing that again? It was like, I sat present with it. And what I heard, what I felt come through was, oh my God, she's over there completely unaware of what she's doing, of what she's unaware of.
Yeah.
And she's telling stories because she is avoiding being present in her body, because if she were to get truly present, she would feel all of the hurt, the fear, the abandonment, all of that she hasn't allowed herself the self-care to actually heal and let go of. And I'm so grateful for the weekend I had to have transcended that. It was amazing. And I had sensations. My body was like getting really hot. And I was like,
what, yesterday with your mom?
With my mom.
With your mom. Oh yeah. Yeah.
She kept saying like mean, hurtful things, but I didn't take them for the first time. I didn't take them for that. And I heard them as a way for her to distract from the moment.
Yeah.
Because in the moment she felt and had to take responsibility for her emotional truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Because being present, man, like really present, being clear. And that's what I realize, is that there are moments where we can get all this garbage out that we put there, all our triggers, all that shit in between people. But when you get really, really clear, you're able to be present. Like you can feel those feelings. You feel love, you can feel whatever happens. I think, and for me, when I'm really present and I feel connected to that person, even if there is something that's going on, I can stay in that feeling of love. Like, oh, there's some shit that we're working through, but I love you. Like that to me is clarity. And it's a practice, right, Jana? Like we just were talking about how we need to, and like you can take, whether or not you do the Landmark Forum or you hear this conversation and it makes sense to you. And then tomorrow you'll be like, oh wait, what was that stuff again? It's like a muscle that we need to keep practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing.
Yeah. And being aware of the stories that we tell ourselves and just honoring them as stories and being present in it. It's super powerful.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment you have to remake to yourself every day. And I mean, I hadn't said I love you to my mom and I don't remember how long. And we were able to overcome that by me choosing to be present and not buy into the story. I mean, that was huge, massive transformation. And, I'm sharing that with all of you to show you what's possible.
Wow.
And it's going to be an everyday thing, because there's going to be more stories, and every day I'm going to continue to have to bring us back to center. But what I want to really share that was profound for me is that in me staying committed and standing for a true, authentic, loving, present conversation, as I shared some things that I experienced, shared some truths about what happened when I was younger and how I've overcome it, and just our truths. And even the things that happened between my mom and my dad that was very painful, I shared it from a compassionate, loving space of, I'm not judging you, Mom, but that wasn't okay. Like, that must have really hurt you, and I'm sorry, and I love you, and I get it. You did the best that you could. And that was really powerful. But I saw her have moments of getting it Those moments where you can see the person look down and off to the side because something is coming through for them.
Wow.
And that made it so worth it, because even if she stood and she was riveted and at peace for those even 5 minutes, it was worth me standing my ground and committing to really bringing my authenticity and truth to her. So that was really powerful. And I really wanted to share that with everybody.
I want to give you a big hug. Good job. Good job for doing the work. Like, that's the work, right? That's the work.
And that's what else I took away is that everybody says, do the work, and we think it's the journaling that's the work, or it's the meditation that's the work, it's the yoga. The work is choosing presence, choosing authenticity, and choosing connection with people in a loving, compassionate, intent to heal way, an intention to connect and really be clear.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, I'm gonna put myself on mute for a second.
Sure. So I hope that each and every one of you can relate and feel that which I felt in those moments as I shared my story with you, and see what's possible for you. I noticed that I used these stories as my coping mechanism to avoid feeling my feelings and being in my truth. And then I would use them as validation as to why I didn't need to say that, or I didn't need to do that, which is extremely an ego, which is what I come to understand of this. It's all ego. It's our ego trying to keep us small. It's our little chatterbox saying, no, don't say that because you're going to look like the weak one. It's absolutely asinine. Loving my mom does not make me weak. That's insane. But at one point, that's what I was feeding into. Like, as you go through yeah. And one other story I want to share, I haven't even had this conversation, but I'm setting the possibility for me. I have a girlfriend of mine who we were really great friends all through grammar school. And she was dating this gentleman, and we ended up losing touch and breaking our relationship because at one point he and I were also friends first before she and him started dating. And I knew everything. I was the bro on the side that knew all about the cheating, all about the really bad stuff that he wasn't sharing in the relationship. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And I told her, and she chose him. In that choosing, for me, that was a mark. That was like I can't trust people. There's no reason for me to be authentic. If I'm authentic, people are going to push me away. Like, all of these stories started. And then fast forward 5 years later, she calls me crying. I hadn't talked to her. She calls me crying. I'm the first person she calls the day she gets the phone call from his work that he got killed in a freak accident on a construction site. In that moment, I was able to hold space in the best way that I can because I was still loving and compassionate, but I was done. There was no coming back into my life in that level of understanding. After this weekend, I realized, oh my God, this perfect opportunity is coming. I'm going to see her tomorrow. But I had set the meeting last week. I just randomly found her on Facebook and was like, hey, why don't we get together? And sure, I'd love to catch up. But now I know why I'm doing this, and I'll share with you the intention that I have for this conversation to give you an understanding of what a reframe really feels like. And I was sobbing in my car in front of Planet Fitness, realizing when this came through for me yesterday is I was pretending that it was okay, that I was okay with cutting her out of my life. I had made her wrong for choosing him over me when I had come to her from a space of love and authenticity. And that I was deeply sorry for not being there for her when she needed me the most. And that I really do desire that she may forgive me. And I want to create a possibility for us to have a true, loving, and present relationship again.
That's beautiful.
That's like the fourth time I'm saying it, so I'm not sobbing.
That's beautiful.
But when it came through the first time, I was literally crying. And typically we resist the tears because it brings us home to that place that we're trying to avoid. So my biggest takeaway, and I want to share this, is every time you feel that feeling and then you go to the natural instinct of pushing it down and pushing it away because it somehow makes you weak or whatever the story is, that's the moment that you feel, breathe, own to it. and do the opposite of what that
Uh,
chatterbox is telling you to do. And I can't wait to see her tomorrow to have this conversation, because I text her, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And she's like, no one's ever been this excited to see me. That gives you
wow.
some insight into the world that we're living into. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Shauna.
Woo, lots of
Look,
profound stuff today, guys. I just gave
totally.
myself chills.
Totally. And I think as we talk about what we're going to be doing more of on the 28th is how do we leave the past in the past so that we can create a future that we want to live into. And I think the whole power of stories, knowing that we live in stories, we create stories because we create meaning. That's how we that's how we live our life. That's how we understand ourselves in the world. And we can change the stories. When we own the past, we own our part of the past, we let that go in a way that was like, oh wow, I did that, I created that, and I get to create something else different out of whatever I choose because I fucking can. Because
Yeah.
I fucking can is the key. And not because of anything that happened in the past. It's because I want to, because I can, because this is possible. And if I don't like that possibility or that story, I'm going to tell myself a different story. And I think I've been playing with stories a lot too. I mean, we've been talking about money a lot over the last couple months.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've rearranged my money story. Like I had a story around my relationship with money. It was just a story. It was like, what happens to money? Like, what is it to me? Money had total power over me. I was like, that's bad. I don't want it, or I can't have enough of it, or whatever. I was telling myself a story. And now I'm like, oh, I can tell myself a different story around money. I can tell myself that I'm of high value and people pay me because I bring such value into their life. And it hasn't been like this. It wasn't just like, oh, I can do that 1 second, but the repeated efforts of letting go of the past and creating a new future, that has been really powerful. So we can use stories with people, we can use stories with our homes, we can use stories with money, we can use stories with our career, we can use stories, like we can use them however we want to use them. And I think that's the power of manifesting the future that we want is creating that story and owning that new story. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank
My
you.
little rant.
That was the perfect transitional rant, and to give everybody clarity on what we're really doing and how powerful next week is. And what I'm actually doing in the back end here that I'm going to introduce as a little bonus for us next week is creating a universal bank of trust check that each and every one of us is going to get to fill out during our session. You give yourself the date of, so you make it the present moment. We'll go over more of this when we're there. And then you write yourself a check from the universal bank of all that is in your power to manifest. And the beauty of it will be that usually it's like and mine was 1 month of service is what I wrote for my memo. And I put a dollar amount in my little box, and it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. And I was like, how is this going to happen? Excuse my bleeps. How is this going to happen? And then I remembered that it's at the very end where it looks like it's not happening, that the real conviction, the real faith, and the manifestation and the happening happens. When you're that guy in the meme at the end, right before the diamonds, and he's like giving up because he's right there and he doesn't know it. It's when you can't see it and you believe it anyway. And I will tell you, my month came on the 17th. No, on the 14th. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And I just surrender. It's going to happen. I stopped trying to create it. And something happened yesterday, and I'll share it next week. And I was driving home in the car after, and I was like, oh, fuck, that just happened. And it wasn't any way that I had envisioned. It came from somewhere completely unexpected, but I got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it was on the 20th, but guess what? I'll take it because it was my something better.
That's awesome.
Woo.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, and I didn't, even as it was happening, it didn't register. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, wait, that was it. I
Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So one of my mentors calls it rockets of desire. Like you can place a rocket of desire for something, and then you launch it and you let it go. And then sometimes we get it back, and it could be days, weeks, months, sometimes even years later, and we don't even realize it. When we get it back, there's this moment of like, holy shit, this is what I wanted. Like, I asked for this.
Yep.
I did at one point, whether it was a week ago, or a month ago, a year ago, it was like, oh my fucking God, I got this. Like, it's unbelievable. So I love that idea of like launching rocket ships of desire. Like when we want something and we come from that place of it's possible, and then we release the how of like, of having to know exactly or be totally in control of how that shows up in our life. I'm just like, I'm launching rockets of desire all over the place for everything.
So
Yeah.
good.
I love it. I love it. I'm excited for that.
Powerful experience, and there will be follow-up, because once that 30-day hits, all of you I'm holding space for will manifest that which you intend.
Oh, I already know mine. I got it.
Awesome. So beautiful. Lots to take away today, and know that we're creating something extremely powerful for our time together next week on Tuesday. We have updated the address. It's in the tickets. I will share it in the email before as a reminder, so everybody has it. You'll get it 2 days before the actual event, but it's 1855 North Halsted. We are praying for good weather because it's a beautiful outdoor space that we have been gifted from a good friend of mine to utilize. And given the last days of summer that we're having here, I was thrilled for us to have that opportunity. So know that we're creating something amazing for you. There may be a little bubbly, who knows, maybe some cheese. But it'll be a really beautiful, intimate, and deeply profound experience.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
So ready. So thank you.
Thank you. I will send this out after we get off. It's a recording. There may be a little bit of technical issues in the beginning. Just ignore that and get to the good part. We love you, and we are holding space for you. Until next week. Bye, Megan.
Bye. Bye, Jana. Bye, ladies.